When it rains, it pours, guys. When it rains, it pours. And it has been absolutely downpouring when it comes to video game news at Summer Games Fest. I was flabbergasted by the monsoon of new information we'd gotten. And of course, the big bomb that was dropped at the end of the show was the reveal / announcement of Resident Evil Requiem, aka Resident Evil 9, aka RE9. And I'm hyped. This might be the most hyped I've been for a new Resident Evil game since Resident Evil 2 Remake. That's right. The hype is at max. It's at full blast, guys, because we got a new character, fresh face, FBI investigator Grace Ashcroft, who apparently is the daughter of a character from Resident Evil Outbreak, which is kind of neat. It's like a little reference, a little Easter egg, I guess. That's kind of cool. Neat. An old spin-off from the PS2 era that, like, I don't remember a lot of the key characters in that game. It wasn't a very story-heavy Resident Evil game, but that's okay. It's a cool little Easter egg. Apparently, Alyssa Ashcroft. She's the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft. Now, everybody thought that this was Rose when they first saw her. I made the same mistake because she's got the same blonde, platinum hair. She does kind of look like a grown-up Rose, but she's not. She's a new character. She's a brand new protagonist, and I love it. I like when, especially in horror video games, or even horror films, I like when we get a fresh face, a new character, because the thing is, and I will get a little critical here, as much of a Resident Evil fanboy as I am, before I completely just start gushing all over this trailer, I want to say that one of my criticisms of the series, especially when it comes to the long-term storytelling and the canon, the lore of the series, I do get a little tired of Capcom just refusing to kind of leave these older characters out of their games. Like, when we first meet Ethan Winters in Resident Evil 7, like, he's a new guy, he's a new character, he's got his own shit going on. He's got to rescue his girlfriend from a bunch of crazy swamp people in Louisiana, and it's crazy, it's cool. It's like, okay, this is something different. It's still set in the Resident Evil universe. Maybe it can reference, other characters or other events of the series a little bit here and there, but, like, when Chris Redfield just shows up out of nowhere at the end of the game in a helicopter and just, like, saves the day at the last minute, it's a little jarring. It's a little, by no means a deal breaker, didn't ruin that game by any means. I thought that was a little weird. And then he completely takes over in the second half of Resident Evil Village and turns it into Call of Duty because, I really hated the way they used Chris in Resident Evil Village. And the thing is, the reason I don't like bringing back these old Resident Evil characters too many times in future games is that it leads to escalation creep. And what I mean by that is, like, these are seasoned characters. These are seasoned, like zombie killing warriors. You know what I mean? Like Chris, Jill, Leon. Like, I see these characters every time I see them now in, like, new games or new movies or whatever, any Resident Evil projects or spin-offs or whatever. They're always like, it's almost like the Avengers now. They're like Marvel superheroes. They're like unstoppable badasses. They just don't seem like fallible anymore. They don't seem like, they have anything to worry about. It's just another day at the office. It's just another Monday for these characters. They've been through this shit before. They've seen it all. They've fought BOWs before. It's just, they're too adept at this point. And what happens is, like, it's okay to bring back characters, once or twice. I'm not saying it wasn't bad when they brought Jill back for Resident Evil 3. It wasn't bad when they brought back Leon for Resident Evil 4. Like, there's definitely, like, there's a good side to that because, you have to escalate things. You have to up the suspense. You have to up the stakes because these characters have already dealt with these situations. They've already fought monsters and zombies or whatever. So what happens? You need bigger monsters. You need bigger guns. You need more guns. You need, You need to up the stakes. You need to up the escalation, which is why a lot of sequels, whether it's video games or movies, when they bring back characters that have already been through hell, they usually become more action focused. Like if you think about like Aliens compared to the very first Alien movie, Ellen Ripley's not dealing with one alien, she's dealing with a whole colony of aliens and an alien queen, and it turns into like a war movie. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a lot more action heavy than the first Terminator. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Those are great movies. And, Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4 were great games, but they were more action focused. It shifts the focus to, well, it's got to be bigger. It's got to be more extravagant. It's got to be more intense and white knuckle, because these characters are already seasoned. They're already veterans of survival horror. So it's like, it's not a bad thing, but when you bring characters like that back too many times, when you keep doing it, you have to keep escalating. And I think the best example of that would be Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6, the biggest problem with that game, whether you love it or hate it or defend it or whatever, the main criticism a lot of people had was that it's just too much. It's trying to do too much. There's too much escalation. There's too much action. There's too many big crazy monsters and crazy set pieces, and like it's too over the top. It's too much, at least for me, because I still love Resident Evil as a survival horror series, as a scary horror game series. And while I don't mind a little more action sometimes, especially if you get something like RE4, which was a fantastic action game, it was more of an action game with horror themes kind of weaved in there, and lots of gross macabre stuff and some creepier moments. But like, what I love about new characters and like a fresh face is that more than ever, like, you have license in the story to like make these characters struggle more. You know what I mean? They're not used to this stuff. They're not. And what I love about Grace Ashcroft, to take it back to RE9, is she's clearly unprepared for the horrors that she's facing. She's clearly in over her head. I'm not sure 100% if she's like a rookie agent. She might even be like a rookie or an up-and-coming, because we see, and this is actually really good story direction by Capcom. This is really good story direction in the cutscenes in the trailer. Like, the way they handle Grace as a character. We don't even know that much about her yet. But even in the trailer, like, we see her fumbling around in the office. We see that she's a little clumsy. She seems like she's new. Like, she seems fresh, on top of being really young. She seems like a character that, is maybe like in over her head, partly because of lack of experience. She doesn't come off as like a super experienced character necessarily. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's not an outright rookie, but still, that's the sense I got from the trailer. And that to me is exciting, because hell, when we first met Leon, what was he? A rookie cop. Like, he wasn't a badass super spy who could jump through lasers and shit. Not that I had a problem with him in RE4. It's just, if you want your game to be extra scary and intense and suspenseful, like when we see Grace strapped to that bed and she's like in shock and it's really scary and intense, when she's captured like that, it's like, oh man, like, this character has no idea what she's dealing with. Compare that to like Chris Redfield towards the end of Resident Evil Village. What does he have? What happens when he shows up? He has a whole army of like SWAT guys. He's got airstrikes dropping bombs on the monsters. He's got tons of weapons and artillery, and it's like, Jesus, man, like, Chris is over prepared. Like, this guy has been through so many Resident Evil games. He comes with an army, like, and that's just not suspenseful. It's not like, that was my least favorite part of that game. That was the worst part of that game for me. Not that shooting a werewolf in the face with a machine gun is outright boring, mind you. I'm just saying it didn't feel like Resident Evil at that point. It was too action heavy at that point. And one of the things I really liked about Ethan, again, is he was still kind of a fresh character. Even in Village, he felt a lot more in over his head. He felt a lot more like relatable as a guy who's still kind of stumbling through these horror situations. And That's what I like about Grace. That's what I really hope the game sticks to that. You know, maybe don't bring back the older characters to come in and save the day, like halfway through or whatever. I don't know. You know, at least that's my feeling on it. I would just really love it if, you know, just make it about her. Make it about Grace. Make it about this new character. She obviously has some past baggage. She has some intrigue about her. And, you know, somebody murdered her mom years ago. And, you know, why did they do that? Who did it? You know, it's interesting stuff right off the bat. Like, I want to know more about her. I want to know her story, you know? So that's cool. Like, I'm even relieved that she's not Rose from Village, because, yeah, it's just like, even that had, like, a conclusion. I don't need more of that. So, kudos to Capcom for doing that. Obviously, the big shock of this trailer, though, was seeing Raccoon City. The ghost of Raccoon City, the remnants of Raccoon City. Bombed out, nuclear waste Raccoon City. It's literally a post-apocalypse, a confined post-apocalypse. It's a really cool idea, because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's, they really can't go back to Raccoon City because it was destroyed. It was bombed at the end of Resident Evil 3. Very memorable cutscene, very memorable ending to that game, where we see this iconic location just get blasted. And it never occurred to me that, like, there would still be stuff standing, because that's just not how the brain works. I'm thinking, well, they destroyed Raccoon City. Too bad we can't go back there. Oh, wait. It would still be there. It would just be in ruins. It would be rubble. I mean, we see it in the trailer. It looks pretty fucked up. Like, it looks like a, you know, an apocalyptic wasteland, like, with just, like, skeletal buildings still standing and crumbling apart. You know, we see the RPD just barely standing, and it's, like, ripped apart, gutted, and hollowed. But the idea of, like, exploring a, like, ghostly, bombed out, ruined Raccoon City is actually really fucking cool. I never thought of that as a concept. And it makes me think, like, that fits in with the themes of Resident Evil, really, because it's all about reanimating the dead, and they're coming after you. And it's like, well, here's the most iconic and important location in the whole series coming back. It's the zombie of Raccoon City that we see in this trailer, and that's really cool, because it's very Resident Evil. And the coolest thing about it to me by far is that, when you think about it, the timing of that concept, that idea of bringing back Raccoon City that way, is perfect. The timing is perfect, because now you have 2 whole generations of Resident Evil fans. The ones that grew up with PlayStation 1, like me, the ones that started with the remakes, and you know, they're just as intimately familiar now with Raccoon City as a location from playing RE2 and 3 remake as old fans like me who remember it back on the PlayStation 1. Like, we all know Raccoon City now. So, like, it's more iconic than ever now. It's more familiar than ever to old and new Resident Evil fans. So, like, in a way, this game kind of unites, like, multiple generations of Resident Evil fans. It's like, we all know Raccoon City, and now we all have to go back to this place, this damned city. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool to see how they handle that as a location. And I'm very interested in seeing what this mysterious hotel is all about. I guess that's going to be a key location in the game. Remwood Hotel, I think they called it. So, like, okay, cool, I'm on board. I even heard a rumor, I think this was confirmed, that the game might even work with third-person and first-person gameplay. You might have the option to switch between the two. So it's not like 7 in Village, where you were stuck with first-person. As somebody who really likes third-person perspective gameplay, even with the Resident Evil games, I'm not the biggest fan of first-person gameplay. You know, it can be immersive, it can add a certain layer of immersion in horror games, don't get me wrong, but if I get the option to switch back and forth, especially, like, in-game, you don't even have to go to the menu, that would be so freaking cool. That would be great. I would love a feature like that. They might have been experimenting a little when they added that DLC to Village, where you could play it in third person. Maybe we'll get an even better version of that, where you can switch anytime. I would love that. I would really love that. Again, you know, give me the best of both worlds. I would love it. But anyway, looks great. Very hyped. Very excited. cool title. I liked how they keep working numbers or Roman numerals or whatever into their titles. This time we got a 9 in the word Requiem. That's really cool. It looks fantastic. I'm very hyped, very excited. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the trailer in the comments and how hyped you are for Resident Evil Requiem. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion. Bye.